first of all, South Africa is an amazing country. Like, what a place to tour. I was fortunate enough to be down there playing underage rugby, and then obviously with the Lions as well. So, yeah, as soon as the plane touched down, you sort of have to embrace yourself in the culture and the people. Even watching some of the Ireland clips, the training sessions that they've had some local schools involved. Really trying to to buy into the South African people. And there was a reporter on during the week, and there's been this, I wouldn't say hatred, but there seems to be this tension between Ireland and South Africa over the last, well, more or less since the Rugby World Cup. And South Africa, all the pundits coming out, Victor Matfield sort of batting away a few things that people have said about Ireland being the best team in the world. Well, they aren't, because South Africa are the Rugby World Cup champions, and that's all well and good. But the reporter, I think, said, who was South African, said, like, there's a lot of love for Ireland in South Africa. They respect the type of rugby that they play. They enjoy watching them. There's a lot of South African players have been over and played in Ireland. There seems to be a slight affiliation with a couple of the provinces. And yeah, many people can say that, they don't like each other and there's this heated rivalry. And of course there is a rivalry, but I think there is a lot of respect, and that has to be remembered. And I think that there will be that at the weekend. Of course there will. But South Africa haven't beaten Ireland since 2016, and they will be, chomping at the bit to go out and lay down a marker. And I know there's a few Irish changes because, well, there will be a few Irish changes because of personnel that are missing. But the South African side are gung ho, like they are absolutely fully loaded, and they will be looking for revenge. Whether or not they get it is another question. And Andy Farrell and the coaching staff always seem to have a plan in place to cope with the physicality and cope with what the South African teams or South Africa has brought to them. So it's going to be a really intriguing contest. I think it's going to be a tactical contest as well. And obviously it's being played at altitude in Pretoria. And back in 2009, just to go back to your question, it was, it took a long time to get adjusted to it. We were doing altitude training beforehand, and altitude chambers attached to altitude machines when we're doing fitness sessions in the morning before even jumping on a flight. And even when I played in Johannesburg in the first game, I made a big break towards the end, and I was absolutely goosed. Like, it was so tough in the lungs. But like, these boys are seasoned pros. Like, they are half the Leinster team, or more than half of that Leinster team that are now going to be playing for Ireland. We're in South Africa not so long ago playing against the Bulls. And yes, it's going to be something that the whole world is going to be watching at the weekend. It is the biggest game of the weekend. It's the biggest game, I think, of the whole summer series between all the countries in the world, because it's the first game in South Africa. That's Rugby World Cup sort of hangover from Ireland, but they beat South Africa, who won the World Cup. So there's loads of different narratives that are heading into this game, and it's going to be an absolute cracker. We've chatted over the last couple of years about Ireland making a raft of changes, bringing in new faces, and autumn internationals. Is this in a time for experimenting? Six Nations. Okay, we've won one. Now get some of these young guys in. It doesn't matter if we lose a game or two, but it's just about growing the side, specifically for a Rugby World Cup, because that's what any Irish fan wants, is for the team to go further than a quarter final. But that hasn't changed. I don't think the Andy Farrell way is to just give up games for the sake of bleeding in a couple of younger players. And I think Andy Farrell will obviously want a performance out of these couple of games, and hopefully a win or two. And the worst thing that could happen to Ireland here is that they he did make a raft of changes, which is what we're all sort of wanting, and then they go out and get absolutely blitzed. Like, so it's it's really hard to kind of see from a fan's perspective what the best outcome would be. Because I want to see Cormac Isaachukwu play against Pieter-Steph du Toit, and I'm sure a lot of Ulster fans want to see that as well. We want to see some of the young guys that have been brought in because of a couple of injuries here and there been given an opportunity. But realistically, is that going to happen? Probably not. And especially if they went on to lose the first test, Andy Farrell will not want to lose two in a row, and he will be trying to field the strongest team. The other point is that how much disappointment has this Irish side had in recent months? Leinster getting bowled out in the final, Leinster getting bowled out semi-final, Munster semi-final. And there's been a huge amount of disappointment in these players specifically, and now they have to get themselves back up again to go to South Africa, arguably the hardest place in the world to play rugby and get results. And that's, I think, is going to be Andy Farrell's biggest job, is to make sure they've got the right headspace. We know they have the skills, we know they have the fitness levels, we know they have the accuracy when it comes to the plays that they run. Um, can they get themselves up after a long, hard season? The disappointment Rugby World Cup, disappointment URC, disappointment of Champions Cup. Now, it would be a misery, wouldn't it, in 2 or 3 weeks' time to say disappointment of a series in South Africa. So, I think it's about getting a win down there, and giving them a boost going into next season, and hopefully we might see there might be a couple of injuries in this game, and then a couple of those young guys might be brought in the following week, but we'll wait and see how that goes. And I just hope that they show up mentally, and if they do that, I firmly believe that they can get a result out there. Do I think they're going to win two tests? No. Do I think they can get one? Absolutely. And it'd be brilliant to get the first one and put more pressure on the South African team. Yeah, well, like going back to the Rugby World Cup, there's no Johnny Sexton, there's no Mac Hansen, there's no Hugo Keenan. Three absolutely key guys in that round robin game, group game. Sorry, so there's probably going to be another change or two as well. Sorry, no Gibson Park. Craig Casey's more than likely going to start. So there's four guys straight away. Where you look at the South African team, Oxenche, who usually comes off the bench, he's starting. Benambi, Malherbe, Etzebeth, Mostart, Khaleesi, Steph Toy. Quagga Smith is incredible player. Like, I mean, he is. I would have him in my team every single week, and he started at number 8. He is ridiculously fast off the base of the scrum. The two, if it's Ryan Baird starting at 6, well, probably Peter O'Mahony, who again hasn't played particularly well at the tail end of the season, had a few niggles and was out for a while. So a lot of pressure on him. He's the captain. He has to deliver. He has to lead from the front. And then, of course, they've got the first choice backline. Absolutely the first choice. Maybe Gallant or a change of fullback, but Wally LaRue has been probably the most consistent player in the URC for the Bulls all season. So yeah, Malcolm Marx is back. RG Snyman in the bench. They went with a 6-2 split. Again, Van Staden, who's been incredible for the Bulls. So like, the bookies, I think, have it, absolutely spot on. That a 7-point margin is probably about right, just because of the quality that this South African team have. They've very few injuries. They're welcoming a few boys back who will be chomping at it to get out there and lay down a marker. So yeah, it's going to be a sure test. But again, we've had their number. Like, this is the thing, everybody talks about this physical power, the scrum dominance, the maul dominance, the contact collisions, meters after contact. But Ireland have come up with a plan, like, for the last 7, 8 years to deal with this, and they're going to have to do it again away on home soil or on away soil. So yeah, it's going to be a quality contest, and Rassie Erasmus will keep banging the drum and rallying everybody, and giving Jared Gilroy more of a hard time. Promo videos, but yeah, I've met him a couple of times and been in his company a couple of times. He's a very, very likable character, very easy to get on with, and absolutely a coach that you would love to play for. But Andy Farrell seems like a very similar character, cut from the same cloth.